What I'd love to do now, please, I'm afraid we have lost Julia, but I would love to invite back up on stage our incredible speakers, please, for a quick Q&A.
Hi, my name is Claire Enders, and I wanted to reassure those coming from abroad. This country has 800,000 net new businesses in the digital layer, and most of them don't employ more than 50 people. So we actually have been through an extraordinary change. And also, we've had a 20% decline in publicly quoted companies here and in the USA. And only in America is scale important and primordial. My actual question, when I've reassured you that in my business we don't have 40% turnover at all, and we do have little nests of people, but is a really fundamental one. So the core problem as a manager that I face is the asymmetry between the females I employ and how they deal with health issues and the males. And if I told you that at the age of 61, which I am, that our very generous health strategies are ones which the men don't employ and the women overemploy, and how it is that even on blood pressure, we have a 15-year gap between the women and the men at the same age. And I'm really looking at you, Dr. Tamara Russell, as to how do I get the blood pressure problems of my male staff to sync with the females who all seem to sync to be 15 years younger physically entirely than the men in all kinds of small and extraordinary ways. I think that's the biggest problem as an employer, is to be responsible for men's health. How do you do it?
Yeah, ask a woman about how to do that. I mean, really, also we need to talk to the men. But I think, there is a real need, I think, to look at what we might call feminine and masculine styles of business, not necessarily male and female, like kind of drawn a martial arts philosophy here to talk about yin and yang energy. We have both inside all of us, so it's not necessarily just about men and women. But there's certainly something about how males manage stress, and that's culturally determined. Well, and these are coping strategies for emotional scenarios, usually. Yeah, so I'm not allowed to express the difficulties. I don't have experience in being allowed to express my emotions. I possibly haven't been trained in how to do that from my early developmental experience. My salience network is tuned tight as a kind of spring, and I don't have any way to let that out. We've got the kind of the football and the male bonding kind of environments, but the really vulnerable places for men to express themselves are slow to come. Ben is actually doing quite a lot of work on this. Men's groups, I think, are a really interesting way to help people start to open those conversations. Organizations like CALM as well, Campaign Against Living Miserably, which focuses in on men's issues. And it is creating a culture where we can have these non-blaming and shaming conversations about things are difficult. And absolutely, there's a link there with how men can sometimes try to manage those emotions with unhealthy behaviors that then have knock-on physical health consequences. But probably Geoff can add to that as well.
I mean, yeah. So let me try this. And I know it's probably not going to go down that well because if I just gauge the sense of this gathering. In most organizations, in most workplaces today, the performance management equation equals the following. In order to perform in my organization, your people need to have the knowledge, the skills, the behaviors, and the right experience. And if they've got the right knowledge, the right skills, the right behaviors, the right experience, they will perform. I would like to add to that equation, multiply that by energy. Because if energy is 0, what is P? 0. All right? Still with me? So if energy is 0, performance is 0. When I was ill, I had all the skills, I had all the knowledge, I had all the right behaviors, but I can tell you I had no energy. I was not able to perform. Now, where I'm going is, so Mr. Male Manager, or employee, we see energy as a critical driver of performance in this organization. And you know what? Just like I put all the safety resources around you at the top of a crane, we have invested all the safety resources to keep you physically, emotionally, and mentally fit. You know why? Because it enhances your energy and your performance. And I'm going to expect you to use them as a development tool in our organization. And so, you know what? I spent 25 years in HR having development conversations with people about their skills, their knowledge, and their experience. I treated them like a unit of production. Why did I never have a conversation with them about the most important driver of their performance, their energy? And by the way, I don't want to fire you because you haven't got energy, but what I do want to do is I want to show some care. And like you've said, we offer all of these practices for our employees, but the men don't take it up. Do you have discussions in your organization twice a year with your people about their development and how important it is for them to begin to use those resources to enhance their energy so that they will perform? And if they don't, and if they're not prepared to do that, then this is a bit more of a difficult conversation. Because this is ultimately about the performance of your business.
And
so I think we've got to drive a greater sense of individual accountability in this space. Do you know what? I've seen lots of organizations out doing a lot of stuff in putting the resources in place, starting to be more accountable for enhancing mental, emotional, giving a sense of purpose. And so the organization is taking some accountability, but the individuals are not being held accountable in any way. And so when there's somebody talking about sleep or somebody who comes in and talks about depression or anxiety, guess what? We say we're going to have 100 people there, 20 arrive. 20 arrive. Why? Because they're never going to be held accountable for enhancing the most important driver of their performance, their energy.
And just to echo with that, I mean, I offered some work in a city law firm, and they had somebody coming in giving a talk about the importance of sleep and saying, oh, you need to get 8 hours sleep, and sleep is really important. And the whole auditorium just sat there going, this doesn't apply to us in this organization. So there's that real bit about leadership from the top, and what is the messaging and the embodiment inside the leadership team. They are the parents, basically, and the workers are looking, how is this message coming down from the top, particularly then male leadership?
Agreed.
We don't have male leadership. We don't have workers either. Sorry, we don't have any of those things. But no, I just don't, in Britain, you can't really make it compulsory for someone to go to the doctor once a year, even if everyone in the company is allowed and paid to go into private practice. We have these extraordinary asymmetric results. And I worry about my palliative care towards my 50-year-olds. The men, that's all I worry about. The women I just don't worry about. But I do worry about how to impose this. Because even having a super fit chairman doesn't seem to push the men to go to the doctor. I have a super fit chairman to sort of show off, but it doesn't work.
Deep conversation, continued co-design. I mean, it's deep listening. This is deep listening work. What stops you? How can we support this? What do you need? What format do you need it in? We haven't got it right yet. Listen again, go again, review again.
But do other employers feel responsible for the vascular health of their male employees? Because they should.
They should.
I do, yeah.
Fantastic. Keep
Do
going.
we have one more question on which to end? Oh, God, we've got lots of questions. I'm going to come to the lady there in the blue because you were the first to put your hand up. Are you okay to shout, or would you like me to pass this over?
I think one of the biggest pains for mental health for our employees comes from our clients. And I think, as employers, we're doing things to try and reflect a new way of working and the new people that are coming into an organisation. But it's really hard with clients who want more for less money. And, we can be great bosses, but if we can only financially staff a team on limited resources, how do we manage that? And also the clients actually that are saying that they're great at externally at all of this stuff are normally the worst to their agencies. So how do we deal with that?
Small question.
Yeah.
Someone told me that the way they're doing business in China right now is that they use WeChat a lot in China, sort of for business as much as anything. And because WeChat has become sort of a way that people do business as well as pretty much almost everything in China, there's become a norm that if someone contacts you, a client contacts you on WeChat, there's a norm that you're expected to respond in 15 minutes. And I was speaking somewhere last week, and I said, I think that's coming here far quicker than we think. And there was a dispute of, I think the answer was that we've got a wellness program in our organisation, and that would never happen here, which I didn't quite get the connection between. I think those things are coming, and unless we establish the high status discussion earlier was someone saying that they reply to emails once a day. I think the norm for most people who are dealing with clients is going to be, do you respond in 15 minutes? And there's a big trade-off there, because that is the most evidently and most measured way to send people to burnout and to...
It's completely deranged, because you're forced to check your email every 15 minutes in case a client has... Now, 95% of those communications will not have any urgency to them whatsoever. But email is a very bizarre form of communication where the burden of prioritization falls on the recipient, not the sender. Most other forms of communication, you can kind of tell how important it is by some external clue in how it's sent. Email is ludicrous in that respect, and the failure of tech to actually improve it in any meaningful way is a disgrace. It's about 3 hours a day of most office workers will spend 3 hours of their day somewhere or other doing this, and yet it hasn't really been enhanced. No intelligent kind of behavioural modifications have been applied to it in 25 years.
Can I make just two comments? The first comment is, please prioritize you.
Yeah.
Please prioritize your health. Because if you prioritize it, you might have a better chance. And I hate the word cope, but you might just have a better chance of being able to cope in the sort of environment that you talk about. But you know what? We don't prioritize our health. We don't. Everything else is more important than prioritizing our health until we lose it.
Yeah, heart attack, yeah.
Until we lose it. The second thing that I would, and I know that just sounds a little bit glib, but I wouldn't wish what happened to me on my worst enemy. On my worst enemy. But the second thing that I'd like to just share with you that is becoming apparent or has just been launched in this country, it's called the Mindful Business Charter. And it's a charter that is being developed between banks, professional service firms, and the lawyers. And part of the charter is, before we contract with you as a client, we will agree this charter of ways of working that will help to enhance people's lives. And that charter should not just apply to professional services, lawyers, and banks. I'm very happy to connect you to the right people so that you can get your hands on this charter. And is that something that you could begin to use and bring to your industry at an industry level, about how we are going to behave with one another through the work that we do together?
One final question, and this is the last one. I promised this lady that she could, and then we'll be done. So please.
Hello, thank you. I'm Laura. I need to read it. I'm using my red dragon here, needing some adrenaline and cortisol to sum up the courage to ask you the question. Beautiful. What I understood today, it was amazing. It was more being, flexibility, work mobility, office of twats, less is more. My best walk is indeed the Friday walk home. The need to address the physical, the human, the emotional, the purpose to get energy. But I'm sitting here with a question. It seems you are addressing the CEOs, the leaders, the directors, the managers to make changes. Wow, that is great. But as an employee, one that comes from the bottom of that pyramid, what can I do to address this in order to make a tiny difference in my organization, in order to be an individual and to make my voice matter and be heard?
My quick answer, and come and talk to me afterwards, is I run these workshops called Get Into the Green. And this is about supporting everybody in their own level, in their own way, to recognize and understand what are the greens that they need to nurture themselves, to rest and restore. Creating the permission and the language within organizations and teams from the top to the bottom around what do you need? What do you need now? How can I help you to get what you need now that will rest and restore you within the constraints of a crazy business environment? What is one small thing that I can do, and how are we going to communicate within our team about getting green together? And very basic one is take a walk around a natural environment, but there's a million ways you can get green, and we're all different.
I'd like to ask that to either Bruce or Rory, because obviously you do both work and are bosses within organisations. Any advice to the people working with in more junior levels within organisations about what they can do to take control?
I'll give you one very simple one. Just do it anyway, because in an open plan office, your absence is surprisingly invisible. Okay, if you went off and had a walk in a natural environment, you would be massively conscious of the fact that you weren't in the office. In most offices nowadays, no one would actually notice. So just do it anyway. I mean, genuinely. I mean, it's a fair point, this, isn't it? Yeah. No, nobody's actually going. It's very rare. You've got a mobile phone anyway, right? Okay, take it with you in case anybody's desperate enough to reach you. That's it. Just do it.
Brilliant. What a wonderful way to end it.
Before we all take that long walk back to our offices, just to wrap up to say, we all have a duty of care. We have a duty of care to ourselves, as Geoff has just said. Are we taking care of ourselves? We have a duty of care to those that work and lead with us. We have a duty of care if we are leaders in this room ourselves. We have to remember that. And I think particularly in our industry, I do think it should come from the top down. And good on you, Claire, that you're worrying about the men and their heartbeats in your organisation. But also we have to worry about how we start from the very people that begin into our organisations, how we even attract them. But the one thing that I think came out today from all of you in some form or other was the word love and the words compassion. And Mark Crichton, if you're giving out 10-second hugs or longer, we're coming your way. But just to say, we have to create more conscious leaders. We have to be more conscious leaders. And I hope if that's the one thing you took away from the wonderful Geoff, Dr. Tamara, Julie, who can't be with us, obviously wonderful Bruce, who's about to become a father again, so he gets another crack at getting it right, and gorgeous Rory, who's vaping away, which is my favourite thing I've seen all morning. Let's just do all of that with love and compassion for each other. Thank you very much.